My conversation today on Behind the Act is with Andy Bowen. Andy's a musical artist with Bowen, an athlete, a photographer, and a philosopher. And today we're talking about failure and the importance of it for personal growth, as well as how to silence the inner critic as we're trying to go to maximize output, and why the creating process requires a level of dissatisfaction and anxiety in order to communicate the thing we want to say in our art. I'm Seth Schaefer. This is Behind the Act with Andy Bowen.
What's the answer to life?
42.
Good. Yeah, I think you stole that from someone.
Yeah. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I love it.
Which they ended up not having the full answer, and they needed a whole nother millennia to compute it again.
Come back for it.
Yeah.
Listen to in life. And
actually, there's a lot new. We felt just like a need to pivot. I think what we've been doing has been good enough, but we didn't feel like the same excitement around things. Not that we don't love the stuff we've done. You know, I think the bar studio is like actually where we want it. Like the vision in the beginning has happened. I think photography wise, I quit doing weddings. So that was, thank God, which was scary too, because that's like probably the biggest chunk of my money comes from weddings. They're pretty high ticket for what I do.
Right.
But I just really, what happened surprisingly was high schoolers, you know, senior portraits a couple of years ago. I guess it's been 4 years now. I started taking those on, and I was actually just kind of like, this will be extra money. That's real. Honestly, that's what I thought about it. And the first shoot, I had a blast. It was a girl who was very timid and meek, just wasn't really sure about it. And I just remember kind of turning the camera around and going, look, that's you. And then her whole, you know, she just lit up, and I was like, wow. And then that gets me excited. So I was like, all right, maybe this will be all right. And then so the rest of the shoot goes on. Mom ends up showing up like halfway through the shoot, and I do the same thing for her. And she's like, oh my God, that's my daughter. She tears up, you know? And I'm just thinking like, I remember this being like an awkward experience for me. It was like a studio. There's a couple very similar backdrops.
Right.
And that
here's
was
a
it.
Tractor next to the beach ball. And
yeah, I picked all the stuff that was like the most neutral, not don't make me be this or that.
Other than the big teddy bear you had on your lap, right?
Other than that,
yes.
Good. So yeah, it was like, I started feeling the urge to want to do more portraits then. And then over the years now, I get a lot of similar experiences where I'm even having like, you know, grandma calls me up like a month after the fact, you know, and she's got the Dropbox link, and she's just like, I just want to thank you so much. Like the confidence my daughter has, or the confidence my son has, grandson, granddaughter. I don't know, it gets me emotional. It really does. I think, well, through counseling, very recent counseling, I started seeing a new guy. He's been great. I've ended up running into a piece of me that fractured in high school. And I had never, you know, through meditation, through journaling, through songwriting, I'd never really been able to get there and figure out that I had some stuff that kind of happened when my mom divorced my stepdad. And I also started to shift who I was, and my friendships changed, and some people became jocks, and there's a lot that happens to us in high school. Mm-hmm. And I think it could be pretty easy to overlook like just how big of an impact that has going forward. So when I got there in this, I think you and I talked about parts work one time.
Yeah.
How it can be, I think we both talked about how we weren't really sure about it.
Yep.
I had to really lean into creative approaching, like just be open to this, whatever comes up, comes up. Yeah. The guy, he has kind of a cool way of making it work. But I'm digressing a lot, but I'll just digress real quick.
Yeah.
So he gets me into a room, you know, he wants me to picture a room, and I couldn't picture a room. So I'm literally like in a place, like, remember Neo and Morpheus when they first meet in like the white space?
Right.
That's what happened. I was like, I'm just going to roll with it. And I remember having a smirk going, I don't know about this. This is clearly from the Matrix. That's what I think. My skeptic mind is like, okay, fine, just go with it. But then things populate, like the 2 chairs. They're just there. A weird little table is in between them, just there. Then he starts asking me to invite pieces of me in the room, whatever that means to me. And the first time I did it, I literally had like an arm. I was picturing an arm, a torso.
It's like go Lego style with it.
Yeah. But then each thing slowly turned into these different versions of me. There was what seemed it's very amorphous too. Like I can't say that like I could see my face, but I felt like I saw like a presence of like an older version of me that seemed scholarly or something. Another version of me that was very much an artist. I think I even had like a feather in my hat or something. I don't really remember. But the one thing that stood out the most was like a punk kid, like 16 years old. And it took me a second to figure out like what the age was. He kept trying to get me to figure out the age of this guy, this kid. And I immediately got emotional. It was weird. I was like, what's this all about? I guess, and so I said that, and he's like, cool, we should probably spend some time on that. So he asked me to kind of just leave the parts work right there. He's just like, cool, now that you've got that, why don't you come back? Talk to me a little bit about that kid. What did he look like? And I saw him with his arms crossed, kind of like, okay to be there, but sure. Which is a lot like my skeptic mind, right?
Right, yeah.
And through a few more sessions, I eventually get to this walking him down a hallway, and there's pictures of like life events, and I'm showing him these things, and then he asked me at one point, now show him your hands, show him your tattoo, and I remember looking down trying to like show him, and I got extremely emotional, and then he asked me to come back, and he was just like, so what's going on? Talk to me about it. And I was just like, I without processing it much, and I had a lot of time to process, so it's a fusion of that moment and what I've processed since then. These 2 dudes were kind of separated, living in the same body,
Right.
but very much challenging each other. I'm okay. He didn't believe it. And to go full circle here, I think a lot of high schoolers, they're somewhere in that I'm not okay yet. Right. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to ask those really big questions with a fair amount of ignorance and being naive. Lot less life experience. Some have more trauma. Some have more really good stuff, good experiences, and so they're putting their character together with those pieces. But surprisingly, I've found this approach to the way I do portraits because I'm really into it. Yeah. Like I really have a good time doing it, and I think that comes through. So like the awkwardness of the whole thing kind of goes away very quickly, and I show them how cool they look. You look very nice, you look handsome, you look beautiful. I just shot like a girl who was fairly goth. Mm-hmm. All black chains, big piercings in her nose, and she same thing. I showed her the first few pictures, and she just welts up like that's me, and I'm just like, all right, this is magic.
So cool.
It's magic.
Amazing.
It's like casting little like confidence spells or something. It's so if I can do that and I can give that to somebody, it means a great deal to me. And then also, candidly, I tripled my prices. So I'm making the money in the fall. I lose out on my spring wedding stuff. But I'm making the money now just from senior photos in the fall that I would normally get from my weddings. And I love it. So
cool.
Yeah, so that's one thing that has pivoted and changed a lot. Working with you over the last few years has been, just your belief in me and my abilities. Just because, candidly, before we actually started hanging out, I remember the first time going over to your house when you were living over here, thinking like, why does he want to talk to me? Seth's amazing. Seth's this awesome dude. You're incredible. And And then I get there and it immediately, you know, you like diffuse that like,
I'm like, oh, I'm a real person. Oh,
yeah. But
Right.
when you're kind of enamored by somebody's work and the professionalism and like what they've accomplished, and it's kind of like goals that you have, and they're doing it. I think it can be really easy to self-sabotage, you know, like where are you in your skill? Where are you in your experience?
Absolutely.
How much does that really matter if you have the passion, the willingness to try? And well, I remember I was so scared. You were like, here's the red. I think we were having 60-mile-an-hour winds in Eldora. And you're
Down
like,
a ski slope, right?
yeah. And I'm like, I have to carry this off this 60-foot booter. Like, what if I drop it? Then you drop it. And I remember having a war in my head. Like, did he just say that? Was he basically saying it's okay? If it happens, it happens? No, that can't be right. He just said it, bro. That's what happened. Like, okay, don't think about this. You've got to nail the shots. Just go off this jump, point it at the guy. Intuitively, this has always worked out. Just do it. Seth seems to believe in my abilities here.
Just a 25-pound camera this time.
Right, and I remember going off the jump and it pulled me,
Right.
you know, because it's in my right hand and I ride regular, so my left foot's forward. And I remember in the air going, uh-oh. And I had to, and this is, you know, thankfully your trust and my trust in myself kind of worked out. And I hit the landing and I remember feeling both edges catch. And I was like, don't. And I just kind of just took it and just kept going. And I was like, okay, all right, this is probably going to be okay. And then God, I think, you know, in the end, I mean, we must have used a lot more iPhone shots than the red shots.
Because it was better.
It just worked out better. Well, and Seth and I had a lot more fun later in the day on
Right.
Seth Hill.
Seth Hill,
I think it was just a lot more chill. It was just me and him kind of cruising through the park.
Yep.
And seeing that shot, I don't remember the name of it was in some sitcom or...
I don't remember it, yeah.
But he was at the
yeah.
podium. He's like, and they just talked about his run, and it showed the clip of Seth, and it was the shot they used. I remember seeing him throw that. I think it was a rodeo, and thinking, I think I blew it because I'm too far in front. I had to do that, you know,
Yep.
spot my landing, and somehow the shot I thought was like the worst actually turned out to be rad. The sun was right behind him, and it just gave this epic
It's
look.
so good.
And like, this point there is, if you just try it, you know,
Yeah.
if you just believe in yourself enough, stay as safe as you can in situations like that. I mean, it's obviously there's some inherent risk to flying
Jumping
off.
60 feet long, yeah.
Yeah, carrying
In
things
snow at 60 mile an hour.
with an
winds.
objective to film. That was another, you know, I'm trying to give these big full circles here. That transition period in my life has now been, gosh, how long has it been? 4 years?
I don't remember, but yeah.
3 or 4, something?
Yeah.
My belief in my abilities and what I can just do if I just try the damn thing has just... And I've always had a pretty good confidence in stuff that other people don't do. I don't think it's any surprise, you know, at this point in my life that I chose rollerblading and stuck with it. Not a lot of people rollerblade. I think aggressive rollerblading is, well, growing up, you know, I was called, you know, and I know things have finally changed for the better in, you know, the gay community but they were saying it to me in a mean way. You know, they were calling me a fruit booter and a rainbow rider and, you know, and back then, you know, I was so hurt by it. I got really hurt one day. Somebody put brass knuckles on and punched my face so hard that my nose fell off, you know. I had to get it sewn back on. And it was because I was a rollerblader. So like the hate that I experienced firsthand and then also heard about other people. I knew about a rollerblader who died by getting hit over the head with a skateboard, and the trucks hit him and split him, you know, and he killed him because he was a rollerblader. So, you know,
So stupid.
I know. I hate to even bring that up because rollerblading has been in a bit of a renaissance. It's doing very well.
Right.
And people are very excited to do it again.
Right.
It's an interesting thing to watch. We were stunt skaters And now people are like, no, I don't think I want to die over that kink rail. So it's a different type of skating that's happening.
But you're still doing the kink rails. It's fine.
I still, yeah. I mean, it's like I can feel my age. You know, I just turned 38 last month, and are we in September? Yeah, we're in September, so in July. And it was funny, you know, basically like, well, I lost my dog. Apollo passed away, a 16-year-old Basset. And he was just one of the biggest joys of my life, if not the biggest joy next to my wife. And I got pretty down, very malnourished. And so I can attribute a little bit of what happened to me to just this grieving period. But like on my birthday, I remember bending down and picking something up, and I was like, oh, what was that? It was something in my back. It turned into like a month and a half long back spasm. Like there was a couple days getting out of bed was like, oh, I don't know if I can. This hurts so bad. And then my neck out of nowhere, I think I was laying on my face or something. Woke up the next day. I was like, oh no. That lasted like 3 weeks. But then as soon as I could, I got my skates on and I went and skated and everything was great. I felt way better because Colorado road trip happened. It was the 25th annual this year. And that's basically skaters come from all over the place, the world, and they meet in the mountain towns of Colorado to skate. So at any one time, you go to a skate park and there's like 60, 70 rollerbladers. It's crazy. Awesome. And for it to be the 25th annual, that I was like scratching my head. Like I went to the second one. That really says a lot about how long I've done this. But anyways, I'm still able to do it. I actually feel my best when I do go skate. My body loosens up. I get days of relief from it. It's not something I go do and then pay for it immediately. So I'm very happy about that. Very thankful for my body. But the point of that was I've always chose things that other people tend to shy away from or just think is stupid or whatever. But I want it to be really, really hard, like super challenging. I think a long time ago it was so that I could prove myself, so that I could, I enjoyed football. I really did. In my freshman year, I remember wanting to be the quarterback, and they were like, "That's great. You put the ball where you want it to go, and then go to a scrimmage." And I remember these guys, making fun of me for he's just a scrawny little skater kid, and they just tackled me so hard over and over, just out of sheer wanting to hurt me.
Right.
And about 3/4 of the way through the scrimmage practice tryout thing, I was like, I'm out. I don't want to do this. And then it's one of those fracturing points in my soul, where it was just like, am I good at it? Maybe I thought I was better at it than I.
Right.
Is this something that these people are right about me? But if I just do this, no one does this. I don't have to feel that judgment.
Right.
I'm so self-conscious.
Yep.
And I never really got any affirmations from my parents either. I never had a real father. My stepdad was a pretty great guy. But my mom has a lot going on. I'm in a weird place with her. I had to remove her from my life so that I could be okay. But I never got, it was always like, Mom, check this out, and it never mattered. So I didn't get it there. My sister, thank God she existed. She would always be like, you're the coolest motherfucker ever. And she taught me style. She taught me how to be cool. She showed me rap, which ended up becoming a huge part of my life. Again, picking something that not very many people around me did. Right. For whatever reason, I think maybe not for whatever reason anymore. I think my flow state that I was able to do very well quickly in rap was because of rollerblading. When you do a trick that has actual like death consequences if you screw it up bad enough, you do have to find a way to be in that flow state. And it carried over into every other aspect of my life, but very much into the rap world.
I love that. It seems like what you have fallen in love with is individual activities that don't allow other people to get in the way of that not being something.
100%. Let me get the con out of the way.
Yeah.
Lots of bros. I can talk about that for hours. The cons, the biggest con is isolation, which gave me a lot of power in a way, not in some egomaniacal way. Well, and there was times that was part of it, but I over time got worse and worse and worse at being in groups. If I was in the group, I assumed a leadership position, mostly because I was shitty at listening. I was afraid of what other input would do to the way I thought about things or thought about myself, what it would do to my self-esteem. That was really hard to spot when it was happening, you know. My ego got really loud and it took over, and it protected me from having to feel responsible for not listening well, for not hearing constructive criticism. Now, there's criticism that sucks. There are people who just want to put you down. But there's a lot of times when people are actually trying to help you, you know, like, or tell you you're in your own way. God, I remember Mr. Manchi, rest in peace. That was one of the coolest guys. He was a UTech teacher, which is kind of like the college before college that we had in town a while back. But I went to do, I think it was called digital design or something like that. It was like Photoshop 2.4, I don't know, Illustrator and all that. And he let me into the class because I showed him that he was like, what would you do to prove to me you should be here? So I brought him this stack of sketches and I showed him my stuff, all comic books, you know, it was all big macho men with muscles and he's flipping through it and he's like, yeah, this all makes sense to me. And he kept looking back. He'd look me up and down. And I was just like, what is he doing? And he's like, cool, here you go. You have a lot of self-esteem problems, buddy. And I was just like, I was a junior in high school. Fuck you. That's my first response, you know, like, you don't know a thing about me. And he's like, every single thing you draw is like, first of all, that's not even real muscle. That's a bicep on a bicep. You know, like, what is this? You know, let's get anatomy going here. I mean, the real way we look is not like this. What you're doing is trying to show something inside yourself through these images. And I was so mad. But it challenged me. And it actually made me want to go even more. Like, tell me I can't, or tell me there's something that I'm bad at, that I think I'm good at. And oh man, that's like the best thing you can do to light a fire under me. I'll definitely do it then. And even to the end, you know, I went 2 years there and I still didn't fully grasp what he was giving me until, I still am grasping it, I guess. But years and years after high school, I remember thinking, man, that dude was awesome. Yeah. He humbled me. He was one of the first dudes to, without a filter, go, don't be such a douchebag, you know, don't be so in your way about this stuff. And he was a big proponent of individuality. You know, he's like, one of the coolest things about being an artist is you really get to just be, you can be yourself. And who cares? He even said, who cares about my judgment? Who cares about their judgment? Do you think it's good?
Right.
Do you really think it's good? No, look at this. No, it's not as good as I want it to be. There you go.
Right.
Keep going. So there was this beautiful thing that happened in that initial artistry, individuality thing that I've just kind of had since I can remember. Apparently when I was like 2 or 3, I would just fill 8.5 by 11s with little tiny Ninja Turtles and stuff, you know, just trying to picture every move that they could be doing, holding their sword, their, I don't even know, nunchucks, just trying to do just whatever I could with their bodies and their strength. And I just love Ninja Turtles. I remember every sewer cap we drive by, I'm like, there's going to be one popping out of there someday. I started to realize, you know, that because I played soccer all throughout like my grade school. And then I think I was on the fire team in 8th grade. So I got quite good, but I had like a best friend that I did it with. And I've always been someone who wants that 1 good or 2 good friends. I don't need this giant group. This was something given to me very much by my mom and the interesting upbringing I had. I just didn't need that big group. But once different schools happened and things were changed around, I lost my interest in wanting to do the team thing. Well, there was a major thing that happened. I've had to really work on what team I was on, because it's like some Mandela effect shit where I tell friends the story being, I was on the A team of basketball, and I went out and played a game, and I was so good at half court shots. I spent so much time one summer just, hucking them until I was pretty dialed. Well, the team went up, like, I remember, like 10, 12 points, something like that, and I was like, I'll get us back. I was center forward. Give me that thing. And I did. I got us back, and then I got benched. I quit basketball.
Because you're not playing the team.
Yeah.
Like, you're just the guy out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I cocky, ego in the way. It's also very afraid of what it meant to be a team player, and to not be given the ball when I wanted it or thought I deserved it. All that stuff was very in the way. And but either way, and I've had friends tell me, no, dude, you were on the B team. I'm like, oh, really? And then another friend, would tell me, like, no, I'm pretty sure you're on the A team. You were pretty good. And I'm like, well, crap. What is the memory then?
Right.
I say the A team, to make it more spicy story. But the team stuff really failed for me. The coaches really hurt my feelings all the time. The other kids really hurt my feelings all the time. I tried really hard on my own getting good at whatever it was. Had I put myself in scrimmages to get good, to go to the park and play with the other kids, the team, I would have learned more about what that meant. But I was just so self-conscious. I was so worried about not being good, not being as good as them. It's a tough question to answer, because I've shifted my position a little bit. I think I missed out on some stuff, but I also like who I am now.
You talked about how you hated being challenged by your art teacher, but you ultimately, discovered that there's a drive there, because he was saying, that's not good enough, that's not good enough, that's not good enough. Growing up, well, let's say now having grown up, we have imposter syndrome in different ways.
Oh my God.
And so how do you balance the drive that you get from being challenged versus the muting of your output from imposter syndrome? Like, how do you make sure that voice doesn't make you hate to do the output or want to hide from it because it's not good enough still? When really there's no such thing as good enough still,
Just do it anyways. That voice is going to be so loud. And I think it's trying to help in some way.
Yeah.
But it's also hurt and scared. It has had negative consequences to being vulnerable, but if you let that stuff be louder than how exciting it is to do the thing, you're never going to see what would happen. I think some of the things that has been interesting to me is telling people, now that I'm a lot more open and candid about what I've been through and who all the different people I've been, is how scared I've been, like terrified.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome is a driving force, for better or worse, for whatever amount of fear or just being terrified about not being good enough, or you've seen people do it better. That it can be done better. You don't have the experience yet. You're going to fail. That's the stuff that makes it interesting and worth it. Because if it were easy, would you have any fun? Would there be any excitement? Really? If it were just easy. Like, I tried it, I did it. I did it the best it could be done. I bet you're done. For me anyways, I would lose interest. I lose interest so fast, I'm surprised I'm still a photographer, right? Like, thankfully I get a lot of different things out of it that keeps it interesting. I've been able to progress. My photos do look better than they used to. I can see this progression. It does come to a point where it slows down a bit, but then thankfully, imposter syndrome, I can see other people, like when I see an astrophotographer who does astrophotography. Holy crap. That's what they do. They go sit outside for 2 weeks at a time, living out of their van or whatever, staring at the same part of the sky, waiting for that time, waiting for that cloud or clear sky or whatever it is they're trying to do. And then you get to impose yourself You get to go, how could I do that? How could I get better? Imposter syndrome is good. It will, if you let it, make you try harder. It will show you progress. It'll make you happy in the end.
As long as it doesn't make you not do it.
That's the voice being too loud or not loud enough.
Yep.
A really good example is going back to when I first met you. And then you were like, you're gonna be a cinematographer for this thing. Had I ever used a red? Nope. Had I ever used a sync cable? Nope. Had I ever used a powerful light? Nope. Had I ever carried a heavy stand other than for music? Nope. Literally everything I did at the level we did it was for the first time with you. Was I afraid? Very much. Mostly I didn't want to let you down. You know, you put a lot of trust in me, and you know, there thankfully once I learned that like stock is this thing that you could upload or not upload, or you know, whatever, like that actually did take some pressure away, because I think when you do deal with imposter syndrome, you're going to look for things that make you feel a little ease it up a bit.
Yeah. Also, if you would have messed up, we wouldn't be friends. So
right.
You know.
Yeah. There was a little pressure.
Just kidding.
No, but I knew that wasn't the case. No, and really all it was the drive to Denver. We just started, you know, I mean, we had a couple chats before that, and they were great, you know, a few walks where we just got to talk about life stuff. Mm-hmm. Nothing about cameras, nothing about, you know, professional cinematography and storytelling. The stuff that I'd admired for, God, at that point, it felt like I'd been watching your stuff for 10 years or something. Long time.
Yeah.
The walks that we went on before we did anything, just to be like, oh, you're a human with skin and a heartbeat, and you talk about stuff that you're dealing with, mental health, physical health, being a father, balancing life, work, having fun. Oh, I deal with all that too, you know? And you seem to have some, you made my words feel like they were valuable. Like you were curious about the way I did things, because later I found out you admired some of my work ethic and my output. And it was honestly the first time in my adult life that someone was like, dude, your output's nuts. And I was like, is it? I guess I don't know anybody who puts out that much stuff that often and then moves on comfortably and doesn't spend time beating themselves up about the imperfections. And like, I kind of was able to kind of go, hey, these are things that I didn't think I was very good at, but this is where that just do thing I talk about. I have to get away from what I just did. Because if I don't get to work on something else as fast as possible, I'm going to probably stew in the imperfections. I'm going to probably, it's like for every day I don't create, I have 2 days that'll add to that. You know, it like doubles down. A month, I have like maybe a 3-month plateau.
I've been thinking recently a lot about what art is and what the output of art is, and how I have a tendency to be quite black and white, obviously, for certain things. I'm doing music, or I'm doing film, or I'm doing this thing, or no, I can't do either of those things because I've got to work on building out the studio or the van, or got to whatever, right? Yeah. And realizing how much joy I had in creating even just that new little camera holder that I threw in the back of the van, and then hanging out with another friend of mine to, you know, work on making the van just a little bit better. And also, of course, the studio stuff, like that's the art, that's the art piece of it. And then the last few months I've been really studying the music industry to say, how in the hell does this whole payment structure thing work, and how do people actually do it? And I feel like everyone is maybe a bit lost, or I'm sure a bunch of people haven't figured out, but I haven't met a lot of them that feel like they have like it comprehensively figured out, at least an updated version of it. And but all of those things, like that's my entrepreneurial bug, that's my entrepreneurial art output,
sure,
and my woodworking stuff going into the van or into the studio or into my house, that's art too. And so instead of being so specific, and if this is stuff I've been working with my therapist on, is how am I defining each part of my day and what's the output? And so much of what I'm stressing about and feeling like I've failed on is self-imposed anyway. So just realizing that objectively my last few months have been really productive, but if I take one sliver of it, like music output, I haven't done anything. But if I look at the progress I've made in the preparation for different things, or the podcast stuff, or building the van out for this trip that I have to do to go travel across the country, and being able to write music in the van, and those things, I'm setting myself up, and there's continual progress. So anyway, I guess from your end, I mean, I see you have photography and music and rollerblading and rock climbing still often? Or
okay. Well, I'm slowly getting back into it. Yeah.
Underwater basket weaving.
Yeah, all the time. Daily.
Right. Yes, exactly.
I wake up at 4 a.m.
Good. You just do it in your bathtubs.
Yeah. My wife's like, what are you doing?
Yes.
You know what I'm doing.
It's a thing. Seth said I had to. So, no. Anyway, I think it's and philosophy.
I do love philosophy.
Yeah.
I love thinking about that stuff.
I just see you as an explorer, and I love that. And that part inspires me. It's not any one specific output thing, because that doesn't validate you as a human. It's that you are continually open to engaging in things that inspire you, and I think that's really cool.
Thanks.
And something that inspires other people too. So
thanks. Yeah, I'm realizing that a little bit more. I always kind of even still doubt my value in society, in groups, what I am offering, contributing. But lately I've had a lot of feedback from people I also admire and care deeply about, and they seem to think I'm doing all right, and I am offering stuff just by doing. When I do share philosophy, I oftentimes will do I used to do it all the time, but I call them video journals. I just record myself talking about something that I was feeling very passionate about, or that I saw other people struggling with, something that I very much related with. And, I really like that you brought all the things up. Every one of these things feeds into each other. And rapping specifically, writing songs, each sentence that you write, you spend a lot of time with. Each bar, whatever you want to call it. I tend to get to the bar is the method. I look at, this is where this word will rhyme, this is where these syllables will line up with the hats or whatever it's not that one thing writes itself first or second ever. I go back and forth. Sometimes I write the instrumental first, sometimes I write the words. Either way, when I get to the words, I spend a lot of time going, does this say what I actually believe? Does this communicate in a vernacular, in a way that can capture more ears than less ears? Will it be highly relatable, or is this some cryptic, abstract thing? Which sometimes that's cool. Maybe that's what you're going for. But if you're trying to be helpful to more people, which has kind of always been my drive in music, is I want to say stuff that gets people feeling less alone, especially the deep thinkers. And thankfully, I was just talking about this in a post the other day, I don't give up very easy. And that's a rollerblading thing, skating and doing hard tricks, scary tricks. Oh my gosh, it's what you have to go through physically and mentally to get it done. That has carried over into these other pieces of my life that all complement each other in some way. And now, having gotten old enough and being able to teach in some ways, I've had some different platforms that I've been invited into or been a part of where I get to be a speaker. And I sometimes I'll get done with whatever that thing is, and I'll be driving home and I'm like, damn, dude, you crushed that. You sounded smart. You sounded helpful. And there's validating things, at the end of the class, like especially speaking of high school classes. The teacher will come up and go, "Thank you. The way you kind of hit this middle ground between me and these kids is, I just like, that was really nice, like you really did some stuff there." And then I can sneak in that I'm cool because I'm a rapper, because I make this EDM music, and I show it to them, and they give me a check of, oh, he's all right. I'll listen a little bit.
Right.
That's a thing. I never like to use the word gift, but a skill that I've acquired that I can give in a way that people who just haven't been there yet or have the experiences yet can see hope. They can see, oh, this guy, I don't have it figured out, but they go, I think he's figured it out. I think he's doing the thing that I thought was just a dream, that is only carved out in fate for some lucky souls, or whatever weird shit we tell ourselves growing up. So I've noticed that even for adults, I guess I'm speaking like I'm only speaking to young people, but I also get to bring the child out in adults, and I found that that's a sneaky little skill I've earned over the years. An adult, God, we get so jaded. We've paid so many bills. We've had so many hospital visits. We've had so many pharmaceuticals. We've gone through so many things that have made our brains pretty stuck in their ways. And I think the real amazing thing I've got to pull out of having a multifaceted interests, is it keeps me excited. It keeps me inspired. And when I find this to be getting dull, I can transition to this. And they keep feeding into each other. When I didn't do skating for a while, because my body really started to hurt. I skated hard for a long time. And then I took like a 7-8 year break. Long break where I didn't skate at all, maybe once a year, just to go make sure I could still throw a 540 or something. But I didn't take it too serious. And interestingly enough, the hardest time of my life was from that like 24 to 31, 32. I didn't skate. As soon as I started skating again, the depression that was always kind of there, the anxiety, and I'm fine to admit I had been diagnosed with severe PTSD. I had a panic disorder. I would have panic attacks daily for years. I had panic attacks that were so severe they would end in a seizure sometimes. And I'm not going to say that rollerblading alone. I did a lot of hard work, a lot of therapy. A lot of alternative therapy, stuff that some people would be like, oh, my boys, it worked. The things that I have adjusted in my life, one of those things being bringing a high physical level of activity back into my life. It, again, everything was there for a good reason, I think, and when I lose something, when I drop it out because... Like, actually, I remember somebody telling me, I don't remember how, I think I was like 23 or 24, I was rollerblading, and they were like, aren't you a little old? And I believed it.
23, 24.
I don't remember who it was, but they had enough value in my mind that I was like, they must be right,
Right.
I should probably not take this so seriously.
Right.
God, I don't know if it's trauma that I can't remember who it was, but... some block is there. I can't even see their face.
Keep it blocked. Don't remember it about them.
For now, maybe some EMDR later on. I'll bring that out. Yeah. Yeah, I took it to heart, and I put skates away. I put that doing it weekly multiple times. That ended. It was a bad move, man.
Yeah.
Philosophy immediately came into my life at about the same time, and it was so interesting. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is all the stuff I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
There's all these dudes who dedicated their lives to doing this. I've got to know more.
Yeah.
And there was a weird moment of validation. I show up to a philosophy club meeting. It was the first one I ever went to. And I was unanimously dubbed philosophy club president by all these people I really didn't know at all. But apparently when I spoke up in class, This is that being able to speak well. This is being able to articulate my thoughts and my beliefs. It was of value enough to them. They wanted me to lead them in difficult thinking land. And I was like, at first I walked outside and I was like, no way. I was terrified. It's like, I do not belong here. I got through high school because they wanted me to be gone. They were like, just please leave. I think I went to class once a week for my senior year. I just fuck school, you know. Well, I had a lot of negativity given to me. I was put in special ed very early. I was told my comprehension, my ability to read, write, do math, was just, you know, I was called a retard a lot by teachers and kids because of the classes I was put in and the stuff I did. So I wrote it off that I just wasn't smart. So I've always thought differently. The way I take information in, especially like rhetoric or being in a school situation, kind of what I was talking about earlier with having like a hypersensitivity to being very self-conscious and self-aware and worried that I was dumb, you know, worried that I couldn't keep up because I couldn't at first, you know. Thankfully, my step-grandmother hooked on phonics worked for me. Mm-hmm. It really did.
Yeah.
Thankfully, like the pictorial, the way to learn how to read in this different way was how I learned how to read, how I learned how to actually move through words on paper and be able to understand them. So thankfully that happened. Without that, I really don't know what things would have been like. I probably wouldn't have been able to ever get there at all in any of the K through 12 stuff. But because I was, you know, pegged as a very special needs, you know, called retarded, you know, very negative words were sent my way by both teachers and students. I believed it. And so I never really took school seriously. All the way up through high school, I ran into a few really great people in high school. Scott Vogt, who I've now been friends with forever. He's one of the coolest guys. He was one who kind of saw me as like, no, you're not stupid. You just don't, this doesn't work for you sort of thing. But you're not stupid. Like I'd say something maybe quite different. So there was a few people later on that were like, no, dude, just get out of high school. Just get out into the world and yep. you're going to be okay. And thankfully they were proponents of me graduating. You know, I think if I wouldn't have had a few people on my side, especially the principal, Matt Deers, they would have flunked me. I would have been kicked out of school. But they just wanted me to have the degree so that I had a little leg up, you know, because I do think having a high school diploma is somewhat helpful. Maybe not so much these days, but it was back in my day. And so I was thankful to have that. But even so, it wasn't until like my senior year, I remember people coming and asking me like advice questions. It just seemed to be happening all the time. Whether it was a jock, a skater, it was all of them, you know. I realized that like I kind of was I could just move in and out of whatever group without really having to worry to be like them. And I think that gave me some weird wise sage sort of thing. I don't know. But people kept coming to me and asking me advice. And I'm like, why me? I'm the dumb one. I don't do well in school at all. I get C's at best. Like weird. And then after high school ended, turns out all the things that I was kind of learning in this sad, I'm a black sheep, I'm an outcast way, the stuff I was having to learn being that person gave me a lot more to offer people that were scholastically good. They missed out on a lot of that introspection. They missed out on a lot of that philosophizing. And I had to survive myself, if nothing else. To be okay, I had to think deeply. I've accepted it over the years, and just that, you know what, if people need advice and they're coming to me, I'm honored. I'm going to do my best, but I'm also going to tell you I don't know. Here's what I can offer, but your walk is your walk.
Right.
And as that there was a period of my life where, you know, I did actually write an essay to try to go to Naropa University in Boulder. My sister needed a little bit of help at that time in my life too, and she was living in Boulder, so it was kind of a kill two birds sort of thing. And I wrote an essay. I had been writing rap for a while. I had been signed to a label, and I was a rapper, man. I was performing. I was doing the thing, and I spent a lot of time writing. So the essay won them over. I got accepted. They wanted to give me everything. Come to our school. You're gonna do fine. And so I get to this Buddhist private school, and I'm introduced to yoga. I'm introduced to Buddhism. I'm introduced to Taoism. I'm introduced to spirituality I'd always kind of dinked with anyways. But it gave me this interesting look into higher education that it could be a little different. I start going. They're like, we're going to figure this out. I start going before I know the cost. I start going before I know what grants are going to do. And I get into this situation where I'm trying to help my sister go through some really difficult personal stuff. My girlfriend at the time was living in Colorado Springs, driving up on the weekends. I felt very short on time all the time, so I couldn't really do what I wanted, but I was making sure to go every morning to go to yoga and creative writing. And about a month and a half into school, they show me what the costs were. $288,000 for a 4-year creative writing, and that the grants that I was expecting to get didn't happen because I did poorly in high school. I was at risk, like this kid's probably not going to make it. So a little bit of that I'm stupid kind of surfaced again, and I felt a lot of imposter syndrome, and I was encouraged to go ahead and just keep going by a few teachers. We're not going to take attendance for you, but you can keep coming to class. Yeah. So I did. And I got a lot out of the yoga part of it. I got a lot out of studying Buddhism. I got a lot out of, I ran into shamanism at that time too. And I never got into psychedelics then. Now it's a different story. But I was very interested in these altered states and what you could get from them. And so I studied them. And that showed me a few little pieces of philosophy. Like the Bhagavad Gita is this, it's like the most ancient religious text. It was first written in Sanskrit, and it's considered a philosophy book, but it's also a religious text. And there was some stuff in there that was just really cool as far as prose goes, like beautiful writing. There were some one-liners where I was like, oh, that's amazing. So I incorporated that into my songwriting, and felt that it was a cool, edgy thing to add to my rap persona. And it was really fun to start to move my rapping from I'm rad, I'm cooler than you, girl songs, trying to be this, have sexual prowess. And it started to shift very much into like a very more centered around intellectualism and discovery and helping through that. And then due to circumstance, my mom being here, or my grandparents being here, and my mom being in Denver, my grandparents, my grandma passed away, and my grandfather had sundowners, Alzheimer's, and dementia. So he had a lot stacked against him every single day, and there was no one to help. And, I did. Something kind of came into me and said, you need to do this, man. This is something that if you don't do it, nobody's going to. I end up moving back here. I move in with my girlfriend. She comes with me, even though she hates Grand Junction. A lot of people have good reason to not like it here. And she's in the house, and I have a gun pulled on me daily. Thankfully, I found all the clips. There was 51 clips. If you want to talk about what a World War II veteran does to feel safe when they start losing their shit, it's scary. There was a part of a wall that I saw had like a loose chunk of sheetrock, and I pulled, and there was 3 loaded clips behind there. He just had them everywhere in the house. I must have found all the ones he knew about because I never got shot. But I just felt like it was the right thing to do, and someone needed to help my mom. Yeah. Jeez. So I at the end of that, I'm encouraged to go to school again. And it was Mesa State College still at the time. They were going through a transitional period of turning into a university. And I was really excited about philosophy, but they didn't offer a philosophy major. But because it was going to be a liberal arts university, just by curriculum decree, you're supposed to offer a philosophy degree. So I'm going on this hope that once they transition into the university status, that they'll have to offer this program. So I start going, I get my general eds. I get a D in history and an A in writing. I only took 2 classes my first quarter, and I was like, well, shoot, I don't know what that means. Right. I felt like I crushed history and did all right with writing.
Right.
Ended up with a D and an A, and I was just like, what? I had to really think about going back the following semester. I was encouraged by the right people, and ended up going back.
Yeah. Took
more writing classes, took intro to philosophy, and met Dr. Miller Les, who's now a great friend of mine. And I don't remember what the other class was, but I think it was anthropology. And I was so excited. I remember the first day in class, the wizard, Les, the thing that just was shocking to me is he asked us all our names. Your name, first and last, your name. And he goes through the class like this, and there's 28 of us. And then he goes, all right, let me know if I got it right. And he started at the beginning and went through it all again and got every single one of our names right. And I went, whoa, what? And you could just kind of tell looking at this guy, he's on some other level.
Right.
And I was just kind of like, if he must have got that ability from philosophy, and I've had this thing going in me that is just lovely about philosophy, this very romantic idea that it was going to have all the answers. Yeah. And I was a truth seeker. I've always been a truth seeker. Yeah. And I was sure that this was it, because religion failed me horribly. It actually hurt me quite a lot. Yeah. And in the end, looking for the answers, the stuff that could really be helpful, it fell so short of the usable stuff. Right. And philosophy was trying. I think that's kind of like, if you look at human evolution, it was the thing that had to come after religion. It's the evolution of the intellectual human pursuit, the human conversation. Mm. And so I fell in love. I was given some interesting ideas. I was told to write these papers. I went nuts on them. And this guy who I thought was the smartest dude I ever met was like, you're a smart motherfucker. I was like, I am? And I believed it, it was like, if he thinks it, it's gotta be true. We can talk about what that really means in some other way, but, it gave me what I needed to believe in myself enough to think I can be smart. Yeah. I can be an intellectual. I can dig into deep, difficult information and make some sense of it. And I'm actually pretty good at it. So that kind of led into the story I was telling a little before about going to a philosophy club meeting. Yeah. Being dubbed the president by people I did not know really. Just a couple times in class, and they wanted me to do this. And they wanted a club, and they wanted me to run it. And thankfully, these pieces all shifted at the right times, and I believed in myself enough to be like, all right, I'll do it. So awesome. One of the coolest experiences of my life. So for 3.5 years, I'm this president of the philosophy club. Everything we did event-wise crushed it. I definitely had to pull my, everybody, and there's the treasurer, there was the secretary, the notes taker, there was all these different positions for people, and I was always like, come on. But I was I was just so excited about the group of people, the belief they had in me, and what I was getting done with it, and the people I was meeting because of it. I'm leaving Dave out of this, and I don't want to leave Dave. Dr. Hale came into, Dave also is the guy who taught me how to climb. He's been, he wouldn't say I'm your mentor. He hates that kind of stuff, but he's been a mentor of mine for a long time. He has this beautiful, beautiful home in Snowmass that for 10 years now I go and stay in multiple times. We basically have a room there. Mm-hmm. He's taken me on the most epic climbing adventures. He's given me the coolest books to read. We talk about things just forever, and it's fun and lighthearted, but it's this super difficult, deep stuff. But the way he and I have our sense of humor syncs up. We're very dark and twisted in what we say sometimes, and we just get it. Yeah. But anyways, he co-teaches a class with Les Miller, and it's ethics. And the bickering that these two would do, because Dave is this very more open, creative. He got his PhD in divinity, but he is not a religious person. He was just so well, this is bizarre. I've got to know everything. And then Les, super atheist, the Hume and Like he analytic philosophy, he could crush it. He could read those books that were, this thick and comprehend it and teach it. And Dave would do it too, but he would do it in his own way. And so for us in class, we just got to kind of sit back. But what we learned listening to these two argue, in a conversational way, but you could tell sometimes they were opposed. It was amazing, like, to see that, like, two people they've got their PhDs in this stuff can go at a battle of wits and in the end go, yeah, but I don't know if any of that's true.
And they're both right.
And they're both right and wrong. Yeah.
Where are you satisfied or not satisfied, and what's that balance for you?
It's a really good question. That's a cool question. I'm never satisfied. Ever. I can always do better. I think anyways. I think I've done stuff that was better in hindsight, but something moved me past it, and it was dissatisfaction. I had a moment a couple weeks ago where I finished a song my wife and I got on a team, the Christopher Benson Collective, CBC, where we're doing stuff that I never thought I'd see again. Like kind of a fashion, hair, runway, modeling, and I get to do all of the music. They've asked me to open the show with a spoken word piece, So after all these years of thinking I'm done, I'm not going to perform anymore, now I'm going to have the biggest audience I've ever had in a place I never would have planned to be. And overwhelmed and imposter syndrome, all that stuff being wow again, like, oh my gosh, I got to deal with this, and I have to crush, I have to send, this has to be really good. I had a satisfactory moment where whenever I have a theme, I've found I do my best. Like when someone's like, I need this to be kind of a masquerade thing.
Right.
Like think Phantom of the Opera. Bum, 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 bum.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm like, all right, I have this idea. I want it to start with room to speak. And so I know what I want to do because I know what I need to do. And I build this intro that's very satisfactory. I'm satisfied. And I'm like, okay, that's going to be perfect for words. I'm starting to write them in my head. I have some stuff going on, but now it's time to make the meat of the dance part of the song. And luckily it's like that 110 to 120 BPM area where electronic dance really shines. And so the straightforward kick drum, put that in there, and then realize, that dun, 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 dun. So I just start doing that with wild synths and sounds rad. And then I'm like, oh, I can't wait. I'm going to bring in the original song at the end. And it's just that nostalgia fix. It's gonna bam. And so I spend, I think, Brittany said, she had to remind me to eat both days. Whenever I'm taken over, I'm taken over. I have no sense of time. I have no sense of bodily fluids that need to be helped. Kidneys are screaming. Stomach is gargling. But my brain and the muse, the thing that I need to do is the art. The thing that's I got to do it. If the iron is that hot, I'm ironing. And that's something I've learned over the years. And also I've always just kind of defaulted to be that way, surprisingly. It wasn't a hard thing to do. But the satisfactory moment came. I got to the end of it. And I always do a pre-master master. So like, I don't just like leave it raw. I actually go through and mix everything, give it one pass at least, which is usually like a 4-hour process. Lots of listening through headphones on my phone, just various things, taking the bass part of it seriously, going upstairs, listening to it on my home theater system because that sub is just so awesome, but also wrong. So I go through this process and I get back down here and I'm like, all right. And then I have this cool thing I can kind of do in my brain where I click over to the listener. I'm no longer the producer, the engineer, the guy making the song. I'm the listener. And I get through the song and I'm like, crying, it is a proud feeling. Like I was like, I did that. And it wasn't just that I did that. I could imagine the audience hearing this piece. I had just done my spoken word, walked off stage, dancers are out with choreographed radness to my song. I know they're going to be inspired. It really is a rad song. they're going to hear it and go, oh, let's move. You're going to do this, you're going to do this. So my brain is doing all this, like, it's giving me check marks on everything, which is rare. For me, it's very rare. Usually I have lots of red X's and a few check marks, but I'm satisfied enough.
Right.
This was a full satisfactory moment. But it took 19 years. I say that, and I'm bringing this up because that was the first time that I had that feeling of being actually satisfied. What I was worried about was, okay, how do I do better than this?
So what about, for fun, take it to rollerblading?
Okay.
Where you're, I mean, just in addition to the idea of the music stuff, because I think you can play in this world of being, I mean, you literally, I think maybe twice for both words said, I'm always dissatisfied and I was satisfied with this, right? And I think that there's something about that pendulum swing that allows for the happiness of the creative. That's that progress. It's like, it's almost like an engine that runs. It's like satisfied, dissatisfied, you know, it's like that, like pumps the energy forward, right? But then you can be content with that and happy with that. And then there's pragmatism that has to come into something like rollerblading, where in 20 or 30 years, you're probably not going to be doing 540s off of a 40-foot drop like you do still
40 foot,
somehow. I'm
but
just
I got
kidding,
you.
know, but I've, you know, so, but that doesn't mean that you can't still be loving rollerblading and crushing it, right?
Yeah.
To whatever degree you're at. So the satisfied, dissatisfied, always getting better isn't necessarily the thing. It's like remaining as on top of what you're doing or learning something new and remaining content with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess
I think you answered it right there. Learning something new. Then the pendulum is great. You know, somewhere right in here is when you're all right. Everything's okay. Over here you're on fire. Over here you're angry. Maybe not angry, but discontent. And you're just working, because the pendulum's not going to just swing on its own. This is where this metaphor always got cloudy for me, because the pendulum suggests that there's a weight that just naturally makes this thing happen. It's not just happening. It's the working through both sides that keeps it swinging. And in the middle, you get to experience the reward of those opposites. And sometimes it's always, for me, it's been hindsight, where I actually appreciate the negative more often than I appreciate the positive. If I get comfortable and content, I get bored, I get uninspired, my creativity takes a dive, the amount of effort I'm going to put out will dip as well. So when I'm back over here and dissatisfied, I'm going to turn everything up to 10. I got to get back. 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 But that work that is done is never done.
right.
So it keeps you motivated. It keeps you wanting to experience both ends of that spectrum. And I experience, you know, when I tell people, you know, if you're pretty good all the time, you're never going to feel what it's like to be really good. But that also means you've had to feel really bad. So to see that other end of the spectrum, how far it can go, requires the exact opposite. And so my pendulum swing is quite big now, you know?
Do you think it's possible to be effective and being creative without having an anxiety attached to it? Anxiety might be the wrong word when we're talking clinical anxiety, but I think that like maybe dissatisfaction is a good level.
So I think art, creativity is possible without that.
Yeah, that's I guess one question that I have, and then I've got another one that I remembered.
I think it'll be boring.
Yeah.
I think, you know, no offense to people who like Andy Warhol. Why? I can't imagine he was that satisfied doing his art. Or, I'm sorry, I'm kind of the opposite. That's hard to talk about, I guess. That's an interesting one. I think if he was more dissatisfied, changing the color of a banana wouldn't have been enough. We might have seen what Andy Warhol was capable of had he not just been given the check mark. He might have given us something that was a little more, had some more meat and substance to it. You know, like when when I see a piece of art sold by him that's selling for the same as Rembrandt, what the fuck? Why? You know, and now this is a personal position that I have.
Right. Yeah.
There are people in art that are very good at arguing how these type of abstract. I don't even want to get into the names of all the different art groups because I find it all very strange and not to do with the thing.
Right.
But creating art does, to me, take dissatisfaction. Like, you have to have some level of anxiety,
right,
or you're probably not feeling it. There's not going to be as much emotion in it. When I'm anxious, I have emotion. When I'm really anxious, I'm really emotional. When I'm deeply sad, I don't remember who was it, Kurt Cobain. I don't remember who said it, but it was like, "Thank you, trauma. My art needed this." You know,
no, that's
something
great.
Like that.
That's great. Yeah. So, question for you, because you said, you know, if you want to be really, really great, you need to really, really suck, or if you want to feel the high, you got to feel the really far low. I think that there's a temptation to villainize the idea of engaging with art in not the extremes. Also, I think when you are attempting to push to the extreme, sometimes it's a trying to prove yourself to yourself or to the rest of the world.
Both, yeah.
Component that I think allows for, and this is just something I've been exploring, again, going into the multiple art forms, right? Like, I don't need to blow people's mind with my woodworking, you know.
It's pretty good, though.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
At times it works out. It's great. But I also really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I've made a conscious effort to not have to care that much about it being perfect. And that act has been equally as satisfying as attempting to, I mean, this podcast, as an example, I'm not trying to make every shot look perfect.
Yeah.
I want it to be easy to set up and for us to be able to have conversations, because that output's more important to me than the polish on this.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean all my cinematography is that way. It just means that on this one, I'm giving myself permission for light drift at my house. Like, it'll be super dark and super bright and whatever. Who cares? I mean, somebody might, but they can go somewhere else.
What's it about?
I don't know. Well, like the difference between when it's like, I'm really going to try to do my absolute best this time. The mechanism behind that is sometimes confusing, sometimes maybe self-serving, but also exciting.
Yeah.
And I don't know always what to do with that, but I guess I'm also just wanting to give other people permission to, like, it's okay to just sit. Like, I was talking to my mom the other day. She's like, I can't play all the scales like I used to. I was like, that's great. Hit 2 notes and just love that.
Yeah.
Because that's also engaging with art and something. You're making something happen, and, like, that's beautiful. Your self-worth isn't in your ability to play all the scales.
Yeah.
In her mind, she still can, kind of. She knows she can, but, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah. I guess speaking to that, like, personal value and like, what's the drive behind that? And, like, just because you do it doesn't mean somebody else has to. You know, it's like they're not villains because they're attempting at art and they want to.
Yeah, you know, that's awesome. Andy Warhol, awesome dude, great, awesome.
Except for his art, according to you.
Right, according to me. According to me.
I miss him.
I am one opinion on that.
Yeah.
How I choose to do it, how I choose to view it, is going to be different. Very different from him. Very different from his fans. I generally am not going to find myself in a room full of his fans having a conversation I'm enjoying. That doesn't mean they're wrong. That doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't mean I'm right, I'm amazing. It means I see it differently. That's it. I don't get filled up from what I feel is more mediocre. I want it to be harder. I want it to be more challenging. I'm also afraid of certain challenges. I really like that you brought up this thing with your mom and scales. I'm still not a good piano player. I'm not even medium good. I know where notes are, but I almost every time when I find out the scale or the chord I want to be in, I'll pull something up on the internet to have up here in the left side of my screen just to remind myself I can or can't hit that note. And I screw that up all the time. Like, I didn't even know that the trumpet was wrong in this feeling until you said, you know, the trumpet's in, like, that's not the right key. And I was just like, huh? In my ears, I'm satisfied. In my ears, I'm like, that sounds cool here.
You didn't even need to change anything. It just
well, and it was already published. Can't do anything about it now.
Yeah.
Well, you could, but it's a lot of work. But the point there being, I used to be really hard on myself about not being very good at guitar, not being very good at keys, especially having them. You have them. How can you not be good at them? My interest, what gets me going, is the sounds, the feelings they produce. And if I get too caught up in the complexity of playing really well and this, like, there's quantization. I can go into my MIDI and go fix this. I'm now done with that thing and moving on to this thing. That is what makes me happy. Now I'm further through the song. The idea that I have is still fresh. I'm moving closer to the lyrical part. Maybe I have lyrics, and it's the vibe of what I'm making is fitting the lyrics I had written, because I come from it both ways. It's never the same. But what's moving me through my art, what's moving me through skating, what's moving me through all of it is what's making me happy. It's what's making me have those temporary satisfactory moments. And when I get too caught up in overthinking, when I get too caught up and I'm not good enough, I don't make that banger anymore. I don't do the rail the way I wanted to. I might fall and get... Actually, when I get hurt is when I'm really in my head. If we focus on the skating aspect, when I get really in my head and I get frustrated, you've seen it. You've seen me when I finish a long rail and fall on the landing. What was that, second try or something? And I fell on the landing.
Luckily, it was a short rail.
For those of you watching, it was 244 foot, the Omaha rail. If you're a skater, you know this thing. It's legendary. And Seth and I went there, and it was hot and difficult, and everything was kind of stacked against us, and we did it anyways. And I got it done so quickly and then fell on the landing.
And then you kept writing it. And kept writing it.
Over.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
You nailed
Yeah.
it.
I fell on the landing several times. It was so frustrating. But I was in my head. I'd get through the whole rail, and then 10, 15 feet before the end, I'd be like, don't fuck this up. Because I had fucked it up.
Right.
And then what did I do? I fell.
Yeah.
When I've been hurt, it's usually following a negative cyclical thinking thought process.
You also ended up writing it out, and
I did get it. Just so everyone knows. Yeah. One day I'll share.
At least finish that part of it too.
One day I'll share that. I've been working on a section for 4 years now, but it's just not good enough yet.
That's funny.
I want some bigger tricks in there. Some more technical stuff. There it is.
I love it.
I'm still not satisfied.
I know, and that's good. I think being inspired by that process, and it is inspiring to see your dissatisfaction move into art, as long as there's a balance, I think, where you can be a happy person, while still being, let's say, having a general status of being happy, while still being dissatisfied or wanting to engage with, art form and art output, because that's definitely for me a complex relationship of, I'm really, whatever, I'm behind on this thing, or I want to do this thing. I need to, build again, currently building out the parts on the van, and I'm really dissatisfied with how it's flowing. It would be fine. I could just be, living in it, but the friction points that it has, I hate. And so I really get satisfaction with solving those.
Yeah.
and that doesn't have any less validity than any other art form that I have. And that's, I think, important. It's been helpful for me to try to identify.
I've learned from it, right? In my world of doing things, you're taking too long. In your world of doing things, I'm probably moving too quickly. Does that mean you and I are right or wrong? No, it means we do it differently.
Yeah.
I have learned to take more time on some of my production stuff because of watching and getting to learn from you. And oh my God, this dude's a psycho. I've been frustrated. Like, come on, the lighting's fine, dude, or the audio's fine. Like, and then every time I'm more satisfied with your results, and then And then I hear later in conversations when we're having one more personal talk that just, work isn't part of it, that you're dissatisfied with how long it's taking you, or there's something that is preventing you from having the thing in your hand. And I'm just like, how funny.
Yep.
Somewhere in between us is the thing we're trying to do, and it's this.
Yeah. Primary example is the cameras, right? The idea of taking a camera apart and putting it into a case to then also put your tripod into a case and then haul all of that out and then take all of your audio stuff and put that into a case and haul all the cases out. And then when really you need all that stuff all the time, like, is there, I mean, I don't have it solved, but I'm getting closer to it.
It's pretty good.
It's a lot better. Yeah. Today was the first attempt of this flow. It's like, to me, it's not even that I want it to go faster. I just want the process of the setup to have less annoying, pointless, life-sucking friction that doesn't need to be there in the process. And so I can spend that same amount of time just making it better or relaxing through the setup. So it's not anxious.
Your experiences led you to think that that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
For the way you do it.
Yeah.
There are a lot less things that can go wrong in the way you do it. I find myself with a lot of things that go wrong in production. I figure it out later most of the time, but sometimes I fucked up that shot.
I've never done that.
Fixing it. But why you have this efficiency, this extreme level of being prepared and having the things the way you need them so that you can focus on the thing, the task, the goal in an extremely highly efficient way. I'm happy to remind you, like you're good. Yeah. Don't worry about it, dude. You're gonna get there. Right. With the music stuff, I have this many doubts that you're gonna get there. Right. And when you do, and it comes time to actually publish and make sure we're getting paid, now I'm very happy for your psychotic level of this is gonna be done right. Because I'm going to get paid. Yeah. I don't have to chase people down and go, where's my money? Why am I not collecting these royalties? You're going to have known why, where, what. Yeah. So, I get to reap those rewards. People who get to work with you, your clients, all the people that you've done storytelling for, they're getting the rewards of that work ethic. And now I have been able to incorporate that into my flow of things. I'm still quite different. That's what makes Andy. That's what makes Seth. Our products are going to be different. They're going to land in different demographics for different groups of people, for different types of storytelling. That to me is dope. Like, oh, I have a thing that's kind of my thing. Seth has a thing that's kind of his thing. Yeah. And I've really learned to relax a lot. As far as content, bringing that into this, I'm content in dissatisfaction. I'm content in satisfaction, but a little more weary of satisfaction because I've learned over the years what it does to my art and how hindering it is. But just try to be relaxed, like wherever you're at in that, just realize doing the thing will eventually get that thing to swing. And there you go. That's a good line. Doing the thing will eventually get the thing to swing. It's true. You got to just do it. Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to close out with you giving words of encouragement like you would to the high school groups or the adult groups that you get to talk to about engaging with art in maybe on both extremes that we've talked about. Like, I'm not telling you to say this necessarily.
I get it.
But to me, it's okay to go just doodle and enjoy that. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to try to be the best it's ever been, or the best that you can be. But I think that the guilt associated with both sides looking at each other, it's like it mutes people's engagement with things that they actually enjoy. And so
well, that's the cool thing about art, though. You can't do it wrong. There might be someone who wants it different. There might be something in you that wants it different. That's a good thing. If you are, and this is what I would say to either group, if you are worrying more than you're doing the thing, that's what sucks. That's what's going to make you depressed. That's what's going to make you feel imposter syndrome being louder than just doing syndrome. You're going to find that your doubts are way louder than your conviction, than your abilities. We don't know our abilities until we flex those muscles, till we use the pencil, till we hit the note on the keyboard. We don't know what we're capable of until we try. And the only way to do anything first is fail, usually. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you get a very skilled person, probably who was pretty good at something else that they failed a lot at already, and it happened to transcribe, to carry over into this new thing. It wasn't that they're just gifted. I honestly hate that when people are like, you're so gifted. I'm like, let's discount the 40,000 hours I've thrown in this, because you're right. Thank you. It came out of the sky. I think no one should hear that, because then they're going to assume they're not gifted. They don't have the thing. That is so BS. There's nothing about that that's true. No one just has it. You're going to maybe have an inclination that makes you more likely to succeed quicker, but that might hold you back from becoming great. Because failure over and over and over and over, and that creating that dissatisfaction further down that spectrum, widening the spectrum, is what's going to swing it back into being really fucking rad. And when you get to experience the learning as much as possible, and that pendulum swings wider and wider and wider, you become more of a character. You find originality. You have a signature to what you do. It's not going to be just like everybody else's. You're going to actually figure out what makes you unique. And that's going to come through your specific failures and your specific successes. And none of us are going to experience those the same way. But we're all going to experience nothing if we do nothing. So if you're sitting there worried, good. That's exactly what you need to do to get the pendulum to be starting to swing out of dissatisfaction to learning, contentment, back to success, and going, I did it, what's next? And then it'll start to swing back the other way. And if we had the conversation with each other more often along the lines of, dude, I sucked. There was a time I was terrible at rap. There was a time I was terrible at engineering, producing. Pro Tools, I still look at it sometimes and like, I have to like, hold on, wait, what are all these things in front of me? Everything we do is going to have something that is going to challenge us and make us have to work through doubt, make us have to work through imposter syndrome. But just doing it, just being dissatisfied and letting that be okay, actually, it's good. It's good that you don't know. That means you're interested. And if you're interested and it's enough to pull you into trying, and that failure is something that the conversation is seen as good, and people are like, oh, you tried then. Oh yeah, I guess I did try. Did you die? No. Oh, well then maybe do it some more. In skating it can be different. You can break a bone and that could be mortality. It's like, oh, well, I'm fragile or whatever. But that's another whole conquest in your mind too, of you will heal. You will be stronger. That bone won't break quite as easy next time. And the wonderful thing about when you do get injured is your brain keeps going. It's funny, you get hurt and then 3 months later you put your skates back on, you go out and do it, and somehow you're better. So that's another thing I would like to remind people of. When you have plateaus, it may feel lonely, it may feel sad, it may feel desperate, but your brain is doing stuff. During that big flat, it is doing stuff. Trust that it will get there. You're just going to have to keep trying. And eventually you're going to run into that next mountain that's super exciting to climb, and you're going to learn all kinds of new ways to get up the mountain, and then you're going to get to the top with the cliche hands in the air. It's going to be great. And then you got to go back down. And there's probably going to be another plateau. But every single one of those is, they get a little longer and a little better and a little taller, and you just become more you. You become more capable of celebrating what you've been through, what you can give to others, and just how magical and miraculous the process is.
I love it. Yeah. Dude, I love you.
I love you too, man.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming up with this idea and sticking with it.
Yes, yeah.
So excited to see what happens with all of them.
I'm excited too. Thank you.
Yeah, dude.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing with other people you think might gain value from it. My name is Seth Schaefer. This is Behind the Act.